Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Albert Bazil, Housing and Social Services Director. Here with me, I have housing staff, our housing administrator, our housing coordinator, our housing service aide, and our support staff in the back. Tonight, we are here to talk about two funding that the city received from HUD. One of them, it's our regular annual program that we receive every year. And the other one is the home ARP that was approved or allocated to the city following the approval of the American Rescue Plan by the President Joe Biden and Congress. So to begin with, we're gonna talk about the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual action plan. This is the one that, what we call our regular program year. The city has been an entitlement, a grantee with CDBG since 1993. And since 2004, we've been receiving funding under the home program. Can you assess? So in order for us to use this funding and to make it available to the public, we have some requirements. And what are the requirements? Every 5 years, the city is required to prepare a consolidated plan. What do we do? Okay. Every year, we are required, every 5 years, we are required to prepare a consolidated plan. So what's the purpose of the consolidated plan? The consolidated plan, it's where we do the exact same thing that we are doing right now, where we reach out to all the stakeholders of the city, all the residents, where we do an assessment, the needs assessment. In this need assessment, we have priority. We have high, medium, low. Based on the needs and the priorities, that's how the city determines where we're gonna put the funding. For instance, I can tell you on the CDBG, we have different programs. We have rehabilitation, we have economic development for the business, we have public services where we partner with community-based organization. So following the survey, you will see that 50% want more money to go toward rehabilitation. This year, this past fiscal consolidated plan, we have 60% wanted to have some money for micro business, small businesses. We have a good 25% that wanted money to go toward public services. So once we do that, we send that to HUD and HUD approve it. And we don't just send it, we need to show HUD how we get those inputs, how we did the consultation, and how we determine we come up with those priorities and needs. Once it's approved by Council and HUD, we have to be consistent with the next 5 years, because we call it a 5 years consolidated plan. We have to remain consistent with what we said are our priorities. If for some reason in year 3, we have some changes in our priorities, we have to go back and do a substantial amendment in this consolidated plan to say, okay, now public service, public facilities, we have a need for public facilities, we have a need for, I will say, more money toward emergency elderly. We cannot go ahead and just change it. We have to do a substantial amendment for that. So once we do that, we have the annual action plan. So we have a consolidated plan for the next 5 years, but for every single year, we have to have an annual action plan. So the annual action plan, again, like I said, need to remain consistent with the consolidated plan. The city received, I said it earlier, we have a CDBG entitlement, and we are a home participating jurisdiction. All that is titled. The only thing that it says, we are a grantee, we receive money on the CDBG program, and we receive money under the home program. So with that money, when we receive it, we said it earlier, we approve the 5-year consolidated plan. Each year, we have to submit an annual action plan, because every year we receive allocation on the CDBG and on the home. And what the annual allocation plan, while it remains consistent with what we say is where our priorities in the consolidated plan, we just said this year, this is gonna be our allocation. This is where we're gonna put the money this year based on the needs we identified earlier. And again, project included in this annual action plan, again, support the needs, the priorities, and goals that were identified in the consolidated plan. Any changes in those needs, if you want to change the priorities, we have to do an amendment to the consolidated plan. And usually HUD required that we have some kind of leverage of those fundings. That's what we call a match. So if I'm giving you some money, you guys need to come up with something. As it stands, the city is still, CDBG does not require a match, but home require a match. But as it stands right now, City of North Miami, with the level of poverty that we have, we are still exempt to come up with this 25% match. So basically, we are using only HUD funding, home, CDBG. A year past, we used to have CRA allocation for the rehab and other projects, but right now they're expanding, they are running their own rehabilitation program, and if at any time they require a match, the city will have to set aside some money from the general funds to match whatever HUD require in terms of match requirements. But for now, as it stands, we are exempt from this one. And now this is all the steps we need to follow, but it's not enough for HUD. We need to have citizen participation. We need to have citizen input. So the same way I send email to the stakeholders, the people working with the people in the workforce training, in mental health, in domestic violence, in homeless, in counseling, I need to reach out to all those organizations. Maybe you guys are seeing things that I don't see. If they don't come to me to say, okay, we need assistance here and there, I won't know. While you are working with them, they know you guys know exactly where are the needs. That's why it is important for us to have all the stakeholders, the developers, the organization, as well as the residents who are living in the city. And this one is mandatory, we have to do it. And in our case, they go to the extreme. Not only we have to do one on the east side, we have to do one on the west side to make sure that we have full coverage. And I just received a notice from HUD. It is required now, still with COVID, to have them streamlined on YouTube, on Facebook, and that's why usually we do Gwen Margolis or Joe Celestine, but this year we say, okay, in order to allow everybody to participate, we want to make sure that it's live stream, it's on television, so if they don't have to come, I think they can follow from their home. So it is important that we have citizen participation. So we do it in two ways. We do it via those workshops, and then we're gonna take it to the Planning Commission. So the Planning Commission, which is the advisory board, per city regulation, all those items for housing, CP&D, and so forth, they go to the Planning Commission. They review the action plan, whatever we are proposing, where we're gonna put the money. So we do all that, and then they recommend approval to city council, or they make some changes and then do their recommendation. So besides the public meeting, we have to have an additional 30 days commenting period. So in this 30-day commenting period, residents will still have an opportunity to, someone is looking at the 30-day commenting period. So we need to have that, and once the 30-day commenting period is over, we take it to council for final approval. Of course, you all know council will have the final say. Sometimes they approve it as is, sometimes they come up with their own recommendation, but this is the final step for us to get the approval. And this needs to happen before August 16, because by statutory, we need to submit our annual action plan by August 5th, 16, otherwise we are losing the fundings. At this point, we're gonna take a pause, but I'm not sure if you guys have any question, or should I keep going? Keep going. Now, this is what happened when we did the consolidated plan in 2020 and 2024. So if you look at the bubbles, the number one priorities at that time was economic development. Everybody wanted, the small business, they are the one who responded to the survey. So if you don't respond to the survey, they're not gonna listen to your voice. They were the one who responded, so they came number one, where we have the highest priority. Business were shut down, so they needed the assistance so they can keep their door open. Number two, this one really never moved. It's always one or first or second place. It's owner rehabilitation, occupied rehabilitation, the single family. You guys all know that the housing stock of North Miami is very old, 1950, 1960. So if you don't maintain them, and even if you maintain them, at some point you have to do some upgrades. So it comes on number two. Number three, you have rental housing. This is something that in years past, before COVID, we never have anything allocated in rental housing. We never had this issue. But lately, as of today, as we speak, people are calling to ask if we still have tenant-based rental assistance that can help them go through the hardship. Number four is public services. That's where we work with all those community-based organizations. Currently, we have people working with pregnant mothers. We have people working with in mental health. We have organizations working in distributing food, hurricane preparedness. All that are eligible under the public services. And finally, we have homeless prevention. Again, this one is a brand new for us, because years past, this one never make the list. It's really during COVID, when people didn't have money, they're losing their house, they cannot afford to pay their rent. So we ended up with people really at the verge of being in the street. So this is what we tell HUD was happening during the year 2020, because we did it during the pandemic. So maybe we're gonna see some changes when we come, because we are in year 3 right now. Maybe come year 4 and year 5, we're gonna see some shift. But as it stands today, this is exactly what still hold for now. So you're gonna see the distribution that we're gonna present to council is going to reflect exactly what it is. Why today you don't have a distribution? Because HUD is late in sending us their allocation. And again, by regulation, when we don't have the new allocation, we are authorized to just reconduct the one that we received from prior year. This year, we expect to receive approximately 800,000 on the CDBG, 300,000 on the home, and if we have program income, you're gonna have a little portion allocated for program income. What is program income? Those are the people that we assist in rehabilitating their home. Most of them, when we do those works, we put a lien on the house. That's what we call an affordability period, because we're not gonna fix the house for you to sell. You are required to stay in the house a minimum of 7 years, 10 years, depending on the program. So if this homeowner make the decision to sell this house, it's a forgivable loan, so we have to pay whatever the number of years remain on the affordability period. Meaning, if the loan was for 7 years, you already stay for 5 years. If you decide to sell, you have to reimburse the 2 years to the city. So in those 2 years, when we receive the money from your real estate agent, your title company, we still have to report them back to HUD as program income and put it back in the pot so we can help other people. I think we're gonna keep doing. So what's gonna happen right now? Tomorrow we're gonna have the second workshop on the west side. On June 7th, We're gonna have the planning commission meeting. Normally for HUD, it's one meeting that is required. We could have just done the council meeting, but per city policy, we have to go to the advisory board first for them to review and make recommendation to city council. So you're gonna have the planning commission on June 7 at 7 p.m. You are all invited to come back and see the final draft. Following the planning commission meeting, we're gonna have the 30-day commenting period beginning June 8 and ends on July 7. You are welcome to submit comments. The draft of the document will be available online. It will be available at City Hall and at the library. So for those of you who don't have access to computer, you can go at the library, stop by City Hall. The folder will be downstairs. You can open, skim through it, make your comments. We will have a page where you can put your comments, put your name if you want us to reach out to you. All that should be sent to HUD in the package that we are sending to them when it's time to submit our final approval thing. And the final approval will come on July 12. And that will be the last opportunity for you to get your comments in during citizen forum, during the approval of the item. You still can have your voice heard. And finally, this year we said that our deadline, this is an internal deadline, by July 30th, we're gonna submit the annual action plan to HUD for final approval. And then, but normally I have until August 16 to do that. And once they do that, so we're gonna go back into the cycle, offer service to people, do the lottery for the owner the owner single family rehabilitation program. We're gonna advertise the public services to get more organization to come and apply and offer service to the resident. I think this put this first presentation to an end. So we're gonna take a pause for Dunia to switch the flyer for me, where we're gonna talk about the home ARP. Any questions so far? Hope it's clear. So allow me a minute for Dunia to put up the next presentation. Thank you, Dunia. Now, besides, like I mentioned earlier, besides the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual action plan, this year, under the American Rescue Plan, the City of North Miami, as a participating jurisdiction, we receive funding from HUD, but this one is not the regular program. It's a one-time assistance that we receive on the home program following the approval of the American Rescue Plan. So what is home ARP? Home ARP, it seems like during the pandemic, suddenly we noticed that there was an increase in homelessness. There was an increase of need for emergency shelter. The shelter capacity were reduced. People were using non-congregated housing, what we call transition, stay in hotel for a week, for a month, and more unsheltered people were in the street, and fewer people exiting shelter. So it's like the shelters were becoming their permanent housing. So I think all that, after the people in Washington review all that, contrary to CDBG-CV, when we were responding to the crisis, to the pandemic, in the middle of it, this one, we were 1 year and a half in the pandemic, and we realized, okay, this is where we have the most need. So what they did, this money, it's not gonna go out there like I give a portion for business, I do for distribution, whatever CDBG-CV under the CARES Act allow us to do. This one has a targeted population. They are deserving 4 main categories. And I think somehow they are close with the exception of one. Basically, we want to serve the homeless. It's not we want. We have to serve the homeless, people at risk of becoming homeless. Those are the people staying temporarily with a family, with a friend, but they don't know what's gonna be their next step. Victim of domestic violence, human trafficking, and then finally other population with greatest risk of housing instability. And I remember taking a training with HUD. In the last category, we were looking at those people leaving the foster care, for instance. Those kids in foster care who go out with the foster care program. So those are the type of category with the greatest risk of housing instability when they leave these programs. So now, what can we do with that money? Those are the people that are eligible. So that a regular person who got a house, who cannot pay your rent, you're not eligible under this program. You need to be homeless, at risk of homelessness, victim of domestic violence, or with a population with greatest risk of housing instability. So what kind of activity can we do with that money? We can develop rental housing. We can develop or rehab non-congregated shelter. We can do tenant-based rental assistance, and we can do some supportive services activities similar to the public services in CDBG with all those organizations who will assist those homeless in their transition. What do we mean by that? It's not just give them a place to stay, but they're trying to give them the means to get out of this situation. If I assist you for 1 year, for 2 years, we want to make sure after the 1 year, the 2 years, you get a trade, you get some skills that allow you to get into the market so you can become self-sufficient. So this is just a recap. You all know that I think 1.2 or 1.3 trillion were approved by Congress and signed by President Biden. Out of this money, $5 billion in federal funds was put on the side to assist individuals or households who are homeless, at risk of homelessness, and other vulnerable population. So really the goal here is to reduce homelessness and increase housing stability across the nation. North Miami received under the home ARP allocation $1,088,181. It's not a lot, but it can do something. And we put a note at the bottom to say that the county home ARP allocation plan is still under development, meaning if at some point North Miami funds are depleted, Miami belongs to Miami-Dade County, so we can still refer people to the county for services under home ARP. So this is the situation that we have right now. It's a summary, and if you look at the top, it's still information dated from 2020. That was the homeless population situation. We have, at that point of time, it was 3,560 total people experiencing homelessness. There were 2,540 people still living in shelters. 1,020 was in the street, unsheltered. 524 were identified as chronically. That's mean even if you put them in a house or they go to the shelter, they're back to where they were. And then out of this population, 163 were veterans. So this is the latest. We discussed, for instance, what is it for us today, but the numbers are too far apart. So we still want to work with this point, but you guys, you and I, we know from COVID to today how many people basically are falling into that category right now. But this is the latest that we got from Miami-Dade Continuum of Care. Let's go back to the qualifying population. We said it earlier. You got homeless. We cannot go around that. At risk of homelessness, fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking. all those people are eligible as a qualified population to receive the service. Other population where assistance will prevent the family's homelessness or serve those with the greatest risk of housing instability. This one is there is a little trick in this one. Usually people will come to you, I'm a veteran, I'm eligible to that service. But we need to be very careful. Even you are a veteran, you need to meet one of those criteria. It's either you are homeless, it's either you are at risk of becoming homeless, or you meet one of those requirements. So the veterans card is not enough for us to assist you. You should be able to prove us that you fall into one of those qualifying population. What type of activities can we do with home ARP? We can do affordable rental housing development. This one is geared toward acquisition of standard rental housing, construction of rental housing, rehabilitation of rental housing. They say we can include conversion of non-residential building to housing. You and I, we all know that with the price of construction material today, the disruption in the supply chain, $1 million is not gonna take us too far with the choice maybe of doing acquisition of standard rental housing. But all that, we're gonna see it with what the stakeholders are gonna tell us where they feel like the needs are and where we should put the money. Again, ultimately it will be council decision to allocate the money in different pots. They have the final say, but we're gonna listen to what the stakeholders are gonna say and do the recommendation. So our recommendation will be based on your input. The type of costs that are eligible under rental housing, they can use the money for hard and soft cost development, for relocation, and to operate the development. The second category is non-congregated shelter. The non-congregated shelter is the one that it's a little bit tricky for me because at first we were excited that we have people come on an emergency basis. I said, okay, I can put this person in a hotel for a month, for 2 months, until this person can put himself back together. But it turns out after discussion, it's not what it is. What we can do with that money, we can take a motel that is currently closed, get an agreement with the owner, refurbish that hotel. The only exception here, the people we're gonna put there that does not need a lease agreement. So we can just have a contract with the developer and we refer that person and this person can stay in the hotel. So basically the funding really is to help this owner refurbish the motel and convert this hotel into a non-congregated shelter. The only good thing in it, all those come with an agreement. That means if you take the money, you said you are going to convert your hotel into a non-congregated shelter, you are required to keep it as a non-congregated shelter for the next 10 years. Yeah, you cannot get away from that. So all depending on the amount that we gave you, you have to keep, if it's 4 rooms or the entire property, you are under an affordability period. This motel, this hotel, this multifamily that we converted into non-congregated shelter has to remain a non-congregated shelter for the affordability period. So that's the second thing that we can do with that money. The third thing that we can do with the money is tenant-based rental assistance. This one is a little bit more interesting than the one that we did during the pandemic, where we assist with 1, 2, 3, 4 months. This one is even better. You can assist with security deposit. We can even do utility payment for the whole period. And we can assist up to 2 years. It's required that this person have a 1-year lease. We cannot do less than a 1-year lease, but we can assist that person for 12 months up to 24 months, and we can cover security deposit, utility payment, utility deposit payment, and those people can be referred. And there is an additional plus in this program. Let's say this person got a 1-year agreement. This person live in one of those prestige unit. After 1 year, they're not happy. They find a better house in El Portal. I cannot stop the assistance. It's portable, so they can move from one location to the other as long that they remain qualified under the program. So this one it's not like linked to North Miami. You have to stay. You're gonna come in North Miami, but if you decide to move after 1 year, it's portable. You can go to another location with this type of assistance. The last, not the least, is the supportive services that we can do with home ARP funding. And we have a bunch of services that we can do. It's a little bit more larger than public services under CDBG. We can do education services, employment assistance and job training, legal services, mental health, outpatient health services, transportation. It's a lot. I like the one landlord-tenant liaison. Sometimes some of them, they cannot talk, they are afraid to go talk, so if they can find someone, they can go and advocate for them. I love this one, the landlord-tenant liaison, because some eviction case, if they could communicate with the landlord, they didn't have to end up in court or in eviction. Services for special population, they are looking at the special needs. Falling again into the category of qualified population and financial assistance costs. So I think I covered it all in terms of qualifying population and what we can, eligible activity under that program. And as a reminder, staff is gonna listen to whatever the stakeholders gonna tell us in the survey, feel like they are the priority. That will be our recommendation to administration and council. Ultimately, council will be the one with the final approval. Any question?
Yes, so this program, this HARP program, you said it's part of the entire. Well, I have a question related to the HARP program, the one you
Correct.
just explained right now. Is this funding available now?
Yes.
Let's say I have because I work with the domestic violence population, and sometimes the homeless. So let's say I have a couple of individuals that fits the criteria. How do I refer one to you? And is the fund available right now, let's say, to assist with a hotel stay or the shelter?
We receive notification that we have an allocation. But as I explained in the beginning, every allocation from the federal government, we have to go through the process, which I explained. So now I'm in the process of approving.
Okay.
Get the stakeholders' input, take it to council for approval. Once council approve it, I'm gonna forward it to HUD. It's once HUD approve it.
Gotcha.
So now we're gonna put RFP out there, invite people, who are doing service in mental health, if you want to produce the service, domestic violence, people who are doing liaison between evictions. We have to do all that before we can do the referral, because you might send that person to us in housing, but we are not the one delivering the
Providing the
service.
service, right.
But we can qualify that person and refer that person to the community or the organization who will assist. But the funding, we receive our allocation, and I think I mentioned it was 1,088,181. The money is here waiting for us to spend it.
Okay, that was it.
Any more questions? After August, we're gonna submit it to ORD after August 15. Normally, ORD have 45 days to approve it. If they don't say anything after 45 days, it's considered approved. So meaning October 1st, I can go out there and put my RFP, invite people, depending on where council decide to spend the money. So I'm gonna put my bid out there, request for proposal to invite people to come, or wherever you want to do to sell us a service, to provide a service, we're gonna put that out there and wait for those applications. Personally, I know it takes a moment for to deploy those programs. I will say those programs really we will start deploying them between RFP, qualification, evaluation, agreement. So I think those programs really we will start to roll them out beginning January 2023 to stay on the safe side. The one I believe, let's say if they approve the tenant-based rental assistance, this is the one that we have in-house. It's existing. This one maybe I can tell you we can do it tomorrow morning because we have the existing, we used to do it, we did the emergency tenant on the CDBG-CV. We have the regular tenant-based rental assistance. We will just have to adjust our policies to roll out this one. This one is gonna be the easiest one to roll out is the approve it. But other than that, if they say they wanna refurbish an hotel for non-congregated shelter, it's another story. It's new to us. We have to put out there an RFP and invite people to bid, how long the construction is gonna take, and so forth and so forth. So those are gonna go a little bit slower compared to the supportive service and the tenant-based rental assistance. Any question? Thank you all for coming. For those of you who are watching, thank you for participating. Don't forget, you can always reach out to Housing and Social Services at 305-893-6511, extension 20,000. And you can also email us at housing@northmiamifl.gov. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time. Thank you.